Have you ever cried in silence? You're surrounded by people, but no one hears the ache in your heart. You smile on the outside, but on the inside, your soul is screaming, God, do you hear me? This is Hannah's story. A woman whose deepest desire went unanswered for years. A woman who knew the pain of waiting and the power of surrender. This is what happens when God didn't say yes right away. In 1 Samuel 1, we meet Hannah, a godly woman, a wife, but barren year after year. She could not conceive, and in her culture, barrenness wasn't just painful, it was shameful. You were seen as cursed, forgotten, less than. To make matters worse, her husband Elkanah had another wife, Peninnah, who had many children, and Peninnah mocked her year after year, reminding her that she was empty, and yet God was silent. One day, during the yearly worship trip to Shiloh, Hannah couldn't take it anymore. She got up and went to the temple to pray, but this wasn't a pretty, polished prayer. It was raw, ugly, desperate. The Bible says Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. 1 Samuel 1:13. She cried so deeply that the priest, Eli, thought she was drunk. He misjudged her pain, just like the world often misjudges ours, but God was watching. Even in silence, God saw her. And in that moment of agony, Hannah made a vow. Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. 1 Samuel 1:11. She wasn't bargaining. She was surrendering. She didn't just want a child for herself. She was willing to give him back to God. That was the turning point. Even after that prayer, there was no immediate sign, no lightning, no angel, no voice saying, you will conceive. Just silence, but Hannah walked away. Changed, her face was no longer downcast. 1 Samuel 1:18. Why? Because faith doesn't wait for a sign. Faith trusts in the silence. Then, in God's perfect timing, the Bible says, and the Lord remembered her. 1 Samuel 1:19. She became pregnant. She bore a son, Samuel, whose name means, heard by God. God had not forgotten her. He was preparing her, delaying, not denying. And when Samuel was born, Hannah did the unthinkable. She gave him back after he was weaned. She brought him to the temple and left him with Eli to serve the Lord. She didn't just receive her blessing, she released it. That kind of faith, that kind of surrender. That's why her story still echoes today. Hannah's unanswered prayers teach us. 1. God's delays are not his denials. Just because you haven't seen the answer doesn't mean it's not coming. 2. Your tears are sacred. Psalm 56:8 says God bottles every tear. Not one of Hannah's cries was wasted. 3. The breakthrough comes when we surrender. Hannah wanted a child, but when she surrendered that child back to God, the heavens moved. 4. God answers in ways that bless generations. Samuel didn't just bless Hannah. He became one of Israel's greatest prophets. Maybe you're in Hannah's shoes today. You've been praying for years. For a baby, a marriage, healing, a breakthrough, and the silence is deafening, but God is not ignoring you. He's shaping something eternal in your heart. He remembers you, even when it feels like heaven is quiet, and maybe, just maybe, your Samuel moment is coming. And if you need proof that God works in silence, remember this. Between the Old and New Testaments, there were 400 years of silence, and no prophets, no visions, just waiting. But after those 400 years, Jesus was born. Sometimes the greatest answers come after the longest silence. Friend, if God hasn't said yes yet, don't give up. Let Hannah's tears remind you. God sees. God hears. God remembers ... So cry if you need to. Pray in your brokenness. Worship in your waiting, because unanswered doesn't mean unheard. And silence doesn't mean forgotten. Leave a comment. God remembers me even in silence. Subscribe for more Bible stories that speak to your heart. Share this with someone who feels forgotten today. And stay tuned for the next video in this series. When God said wait, Joseph's prison season.